The Great Polygon Article Author Uproar, reported by Andrew Eisen and published on GamePolitics.com. 2 days ago, I explained that I thought the biggest problem with Games Press is their attitude, that they have a strong tendency to side against you and especially with one another. This article, published yesterday, is a perfect example. Let's just start with the first 2 paragraphs. These present the facts of the situation. Earlier this week, Polygon posted an excerpt from game journalist and critic Phil Owen's recent book, WTF is Wrong with Video Games. The article led off with the 2-paragraph product description you'll find on Amazon and Gumroad, followed by a paragraph explaining that the following text is an excerpt from the book's first chapter. When the article was first posted, its byline read, Polygon staff, but by the following morning, it had changed to Phil Owen, the book's author. So, I'll say right now, none of that is untrue. Before I dig in, let's take a little peep at the 3rd paragraph as well, how they characterize the complaints. According to one of our readers, this is proof that Polygon is a quote, den of shoddy, unethical non-journalism, unquote, and not to be trusted. Owen told us that some folks on Twitter are so upset over this that they've threatened to contact the Federal Trade Commission. These people, they just sound ridiculous. They're freaking out over a byline change. The author of this report has really made it look like there is nothing wrong with the article and people complaining are overreacting. And like I said, he hasn't told any lies. Well then, what's my issue with this reporting? In a piece about people taking issue with a Polygon article, he has not explained the problem. He's talked about people reacting to what Polygon have done after people had a problem, and it makes Polygon look really good and their critics look really dumb, but in his rush to suck their dick, he hasn't actually looked at what happened. Let's take a look at the article in its original form. Everything he said about it was true. It does lead with a 2-paragraph product description. There is then a paragraph explaining that the following text is an excerpt, and then there is the excerpt. But let's actually look at how it was done. You have a title, WTF is Wrong with Video Games, and then a byline, by Polygon staff. And this is the introduction to the article. Look at it and imagine you haven't been told that this is a product description. You have 3 paragraphs of italicized writing. This distinguishes them from the excerpt itself, but not from one another. 2 paragraphs talking about Phil Owen and his book, and then a 3rd one that says, we've included a brief excerpt of the first chapter. When I first read this article in its original form, I believed all 3 of these paragraphs had been written by a member of Polygon staff. I didn't know this was the same as the product description. How would someone approaching this, without having been told already, know that? It's clear that after the 3rd paragraph it is an excerpt from Phil Owen's book. No matter how many times that people try to say that that is what people are complaining about, that people don't understand that outlets excerpt books. That has not been the issue. The issue is how misleading the original introduction was. It looked to me and others like Polygon had written this lovely little PR blurb for the book of a guy who is friends with a senior editor there, when actually that very nice positive introduction was written by the author himself. Link to my video about this in the description. It had the reek of something being wrong. And do you want to know who agrees with me? Do you want to know who doesn't think it was just the byline that was a problem? Do you want to know who does not think that people's issue is just that they were excerpting a book? Polygon. Check this out. Same title, of course. WTF is Wrong with Video Games. Same byline, by Polygon staff, and the same date. No note of a change or update. The article itself, though, is quite different. Hey, looks like the content of the actual article itself was a problem. Otherwise, why would they change it? It's much clearer now. I would say it's no longer misleading. Why didn't the Game Politics piece mention this? You know, the thing that makes it look like Polygon actually did something wrong. Could it be that people are really pissed off because they noticed something was wrong, and the outlet is denying it and trying to sweep it under the rug, rather than just putting in, I don't know, editor's note, and then 2 sentences just saying they changed it because it was unclear? Could the response seem fragmented? Because some people will have seen the original article, some people will have seen it after the first update, and they're confused because Polygon changes stuff without any note. Having a mistake like that, having people complain and then changing it without note, and pretending it didn't happen, fucks with people's heads. Most people do not have the time to perfectly keep track of what's up. From following people who are upset about this, I can tell you, from their perspective, they saw the original piece that made it look like the first 3 paragraphs were written by Polygon staff. The next thing they knew, the byline changed to Phil Owen. To them, that is the, yes, I was right, there was a problem with the original article. Because Polygon is being screwy, making mistakes, pretending they didn't make mistakes, changing it, without any note, without addressing it in spite of mass complaint. They are making their critics, who I will say are absolutely in the right, very confused. And that's not saying they're unintelligent. How could you not be confused? And now they've got another outlet stepping in to report on why they are wrong to think something was wrong. Knowing what happened, is that not just messed up? An outlet makes a mistake, tries to hide it and screw with the heads of the people who noticed it, and then another outlet steps in to screw with their heads some more. I am fucking seething. All people want is acknowledgement of what happened. You know what they say about games? Oh, we just want games to be better. These people just want GamesPress to be better. And they are right. But rather than accept criticism, rather than just do the tiniest thing to make it better, rather than acknowledge it, GamesPress attacks. Let's read the rest of this Game Politics article. Owen, the author of the book being excerpted, speculates that the byline change was in response to willful confusion on the part of Gamergaters as to what a book excerpt is. Yesterday, they got really hung up on the Polygon staff byline, and I figure Polygon thought changing it to my name might diffuse that. Obviously, it did not. Yeah, obviously, it made people more angry because it's part of Polygon trying to deny reality rather than face criticism. To appropriate the kind of language they use, we want GamesPress to get better. We don't want it to stay the same. It doesn't matter if this is how they've always done it, and this is seen as acceptable. If you fuck up, change it without note and people are still pissed, you should explain yourself. I can only speak for myself, but I would be happy with a little editor's note saying it was changed and when. Something along those lines, rather than talking to Game Politics and saying this. Polygon senior editor Phil Collar, who by the way has a public friendship with Phil Owen, confirmed Owen's guess that the change was made for the sake of clarity. Phil said, "We've posted excerpts from books numerous times before, and our style has always been to post them as Polygon staff, rather than going through the process of getting the book writer's name in our system when they're technically not a Polygon writer. This hasn't caused confusion before, but it seems to have this time, so we decided to swap it to Phil's name to make it clear." Book excerpts are common on news sites outside of gaming and something we've featured on our site since launch. Obviously, the controversial nature of this excerpt got a lot of people talking, but not entirely sure where the confusion/anger about the nature of an excerpt has come from. Let me give you a hand then. This was published and people thought it seemed suspect and misleading. It then became this, which you'd think would mean Polygon agrees it was misleading. And then instead of saying, "Sorry guys, we published something that was misleading, we didn't mean to," we get a senior editor at Polygon talking about how, oh, these confused idiots, they don't understand how book excerpts work. And now these dum-dums are angry at a byline change, which we only did to help their feeble minds grasp the concept that this is a book excerpt. Does it make sense how that could piss people off? It's not just the issue, it's how it's being dealt with. Have you heard of a thing called Gamergate? Anyway, back to the Game Politics article, here's how it ends. So, the reason behind the change in byline appears to be as boring as everyone not wearing a tinfoil hat expected. But what if, as a reader of ours suggested, the whole thing was actually written by a, quote, third-party contributor that Polygon didn't want to name to avoid making the whole thing seem even more scummy, unquote. Reporting from San Diego, Game Politics contributing editor Andrew Eisen. Brilliant reporting and exactly the attitude I expect from GamesPress. Polygon should hire this guy. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.